Good evening. My name is Chip Redmond. I'm a meteorologist here at K-State and the Kansas Mesonet Manager. We'll give a quick summary of current conditions and then a quick outlook, and hopefully some light in the tunnel of the conditions we've seen across the state. So statewide, temperature-wise, we started the year cooler, which is the orange line compared to the black line, which is our normal. We were average in the spring months, and then in the summer months, we've been above normal for the last 3 months statewide. Now, I know a lot of folks feel like it's been really, really hot. We're not anywhere near the warmest on record. September was giving it a run for its money, but we've kind of cooled off a little bit. And that's to be expected because seasonally we do see temperatures start to trend downward as we get into fall. And so one other thing that changes as we enter the fall months is wind. We see an average lull in wind in July and August statewide. And as we get into September, October, and November, we see those winds climatologically increase. And that's not a good thing. We've actually seen pretty calm winds, relatively speaking, for the drought over the last few months. And that's been good because it's helped keep what little moisture there really is, has helped keep it in the topsoil. Unfortunately, in ponds. Unfortunately, as we get into fall, we're going to see more wind events like we saw last week. Just that map at the top left is the evaporative demand index. So basically how much moisture there's been a demand for. And you can see eastern Kansas has been targeted with really dry, warm, windy conditions. And unfortunately, that's likely to continue, if not get worse as we get into the fall months. Now looking at precipitation, we've had some moisture in September. We've already statewide averaged more moisture in September than we saw in August. That's not the climatological norm, but below normal precipitation on the statewide level for the last 3 months. And a lot of that has been targeted at the southeast. And you can see big moisture anomalies in the southeast over the last 30 days. Really no measurable moisture for a lot of folks. As you get further north and west into north central Kansas, we can see that they had above normal moisture, and that's how we're kind of skewing the numbers for September at a statewide level. If we look a little bit closer, here's just Wichita. This was ending last week, but the dashed blue line was the year-to-date precipitation accumulated, and so the dashed blue line is where we're at present day, and the black line is the median, and then the green line is the wettest on record, the wettest year on record. And we were trending right there with a pretty rapid increase in moisture late May, but the tap has been turned off, and we see we've gone from near the record wettest to median if we're lucky. And if you can kind of interpolate out, we really can't fall underneath the 25th percentile, but really dry conditions where we did not get any moisture this summer. Now we're in a long-term drought where what moisture was there in surface water and as well as subsurface soil moisture, we've depleted it. And now we're starting to look into bigger water concerns such as water availability for towns and water supplies in general. It's bad. There's just no way around it. We just do not have moisture in the forecast. This is for the next 7 days for eastern third of the state, eastern half of the state, really. And even in the neighboring states, we're really, really dry. If we look at what's really driving the big pattern, La Nina and El Nino are common terms. It's all called ENSO. And the observations in July and August were basically below the pink area, which means we're in a La Nina. And we actually saw it strengthen. The August observation isn't on here, but it came out to right about there, right about the 0.8 to almost -1. And the forecast is for that to continue through August, September, October, all the way into November, December, and January. And then we expect it to increase. And as a result, we expect to switch to neutral conditions in the East Pacific. And what that'll do is hopefully break this pattern. We did have this forecasted last year. We didn't see it realized though. And so it's not perfect, but if we look at all these various models, they all trend upward, which is a good thing. We need that. So we have one positive thing in place for us. Unfortunately, we're still going to be under a La Nina conditions for this fall going into winter and strong La Nina. Then because of this, we typically see much higher increased risk of warm conditions, as well as much higher increased risk of dry conditions. On the right is precipitation departures. And just another bullseye of red is bad, right? So not a big change expected as you get into October, continued warmer and drier conditions. Now, as I mentioned, we're not talking necessarily record heat. Like right now, we're above normal temperatures, but we're not at record heat. And I don't really forecast any record heat for right now. If we look at the Climate Prediction Center outlook, same thing. It agrees very much with that ensemble of models. Above normal temperatures on the left, below normal precipitation on the right for much of the region, or for all of the region. If we look out a little bit further, this is the average for October, November, December, a different model here, but red on the left is still above normal temperature confidence. And then on the right is still below normal precipitation confidence. So really a strong signal of warm and dry conditions as we get all the way through the end of the year. And we're not really seeing any light at the end of the tunnel. So the Climate Prediction Center agrees with that, with above normal temperatures on the left favored and below normal precipitation on the right favored. But, and this is where the but is hopefully end on a good note. We had a crazy volcanic eruption last January. And what that did is that eruption was down here in this time series in the bottom right. And that red square is, you see all that green? Well, that was moisture influx into the stratosphere. And that was a ton of moisture, more moisture than we've seen. And that plot goes back to 2013. So more than we've seen really in the last 10 years. As a result, the southern hemisphere, that's the plot on the left there, the whole globe, has been cooler than normal. It's blue and much cooler than normal. Well, this in turn has led to cooler surface conditions and a more active pattern for the southern hemisphere. When we see a big moisture influx, basically the moisture reflects all the solar radiation out from that's coming into the earth in the southern hemisphere. So it keeps it cooler. When we see that, we tend to see a negative North Atlantic oscillation in the winter following. So this would be our upcoming winter. A negative North Atlantic oscillation means that really fancy word that people love called the polar vortex is typically weaker. Now, weaker might not mean anything to you, but a weaker means that it has more dips and valleys, and that's on the right globe here. You see all these dips. Basically, the jet stream has a lot more kinks in it. It's a lot more active. And when it's a lot more active, we're going to see cold spells. We're also going to see warm spells. But most importantly, those two are going to clash more often over this winter, potentially. As a result of that, we typically see more active weather pattern, and we typically see more precipitation. So we're following that volcanic eruption, and its impacts could potentially drift over and impact our winter. In the models, as you go out January, February, and March, we start to see that. It's not a strong signal yet, but you see Kansas is still a little bit in the red there for temperatures on the left. But we're on that gradient of warmer to near normal, and we're in that gradient somewhere. Same with precipitation. There's a gradient that's kind of over Kansas, where there's a hint of we could see some cooler than normal temperatures, but we could potentially see some more precipitation than what we've seen. Now, granted, we are going into the driest time of the year, so more precipitation is relative. We could get a widespread 1/10 of an inch and probably still be over our monthly averages, or our weekly averages, sorry. So just keep that in mind. We could potentially see some light in the tunnel. And typically when La Nina breaks too, we see a more active spring severe weather season. So hopefully some optimism for everyone. The Climate Prediction Center is on board with that, with equal chances of temperature on the left and then equal chances of precipitation for the January, February, March timeframe. So yay, we're moving the needle in the right direction. And hopefully we can keep that going, and hopefully everyone can stay positive and keep your head up. It's a tough time. Keep in mind, climate is an average of the extremes, right? So an average is really wet, and our average in the middle of really wet and really dry. It's not a realistic thing. So when we flip the needle hard on one side, we tend to get flipped back to the other. Let's hope we don't get all that rain at once, but we can only go the other way. This is the bottom. So stay positive, and thanks for talking to me.